This is perfect for the Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson gets his contract extension. He's getting named with the best floater in the league. And some offseason grades were rewarded for the Grizzlies. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Grizzlies Digest. I'm Tristan Harlen. Excited to be right back with you after my previous video talking about the Grizzlies not being able to play in Memphis on Martin Luther King Day this season. But today, we're going to be talking about Jaren Jackson Jr., Trip J, big number 8, and what he means to the Grizzlies and how he has the best floater in the league. But before we begin, we're going to remind everybody once again, 73.8% of you guys are not subscribed. 26.2% of you guys are. So if you like what you see, like what you hear, like to watch more Grizzlies content, and like to discuss the Grizzlies stuff in the comments, make sure we click on that subscribe button because it's everybody's favorite price, $3.99. But this all transpires from this post that was made on Twitter, and it breaks down the total floaters in the regular season for last year between all the NBA teams. Now, of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. is ranked second with 342 floater attempts and achieving just 51.5%. And he's actually shooting well above the rest of the forwards in the league with almost over 100 in comparing to Hardenstein, who's ranked 11th but second amongst the forwards. Now, NBA University tweeted this: Jaren Jackson Jr. has one of the best floater games in the NBA, separates and floats over mismatches with pointy elbows / shoulders, elite short roll weapon, sneaky quick downhill crossover, one of the few guys in the league that crashes floaters with either hand, effective bucket. Now, of course, you see his stats right there, screenshotted from a video. Now, again, I mean, we've talked about Jaren before, and now talking about the offseason is the fact that the Grizzlies were given a B for their offseason. Now, before we really just dive into this, I do want to just take a sec to talk more about this and Jaren Jackson's floater game. Now, we've seen how effective he can be when he's hitting that spin move low in the block, and he's putting up an easy bucket against teams that don't know how to defend the almost 7-foot forward when he floats the game. Now, we've seen great floater games in Memphis before. Michael Conley, I'm looking at you. And the ability to just float it up and to knock it down the bucket. Very effective shot. It's a good shot to have in your arsenal. You know, I'm not going to claim I'm a great hooper, but I, too, like to hit the occasional floater, especially over taller defenders. It's a very, very effective shot when you're playing against guys who are 6'4", 6'5", and you're only 5'8". So, but yeah, Jaren Jackson, one of the best floater games in the NBA. Huge for the Grizzlies because that opens up, again, more offensive scoring. And, you know, we've seen how effective this has been for Jaren over the years. So, you know, once he gets that 51.5% up, possibly to 60s, 70%, then, you know, it's going to be a move that the Grizzlies likely will add to the offensive playbook later on in his career with the Grizzlies. Now, back to this. B grade for the Memphis Grizzlies. Of course, we've talked 100 times about the Desmond Bane trade. And a coveted 2026 pick, most likely for the Phoenix Suns, and Ty Jerome on a value contract. The Grizzlies were able to sign Jaren Jackson to an extension that pays him less than he could have made next summer as an unrestricted free agent. Now, look, ESPN's going to have their own grade. My grade, I'm giving them an A-. There's a little bit more I feel like the Grizzlies could have done, whether that's, you know, possibly making a bigger trade, possibly getting a better center. Zach Edey, of course, going down with an injury. So I definitely feel like there was definitely more moves could have been made. Cedric Howard being drafted, Meshack being drafted, Ace Baldwin being signed to the Summer League roster. I mean, these were great offseason moves for the Grizzlies, but where do the Grizzlies go from here? Where do they take the B to turn it into an A+ and have a great 2025-2026 regular season? Now, if you ask me, I think the number one priority for this season is getting Jaren Jackson back to that great scorer that he is, and also seeing where Ja Morant is health-wise. Now, this isn't a Ja Morant video, but I just will say this. As good of a player Ja Morant is, he has had a very, very sketchy history with injury issues. So hopefully that will kind of, you know, cease to exist from here on out. And of course, nothing major for Mr. Morant. But talking about the Grizzlies offseason now is the West is loaded. I mean, you see it there. Might take a step back of the loaded West. They're trying to start guard Desmond Bane. But here's the thing. While, yes, it sucks that the Grizzlies possibly won't be title contenders this season unless Josh is going out there scoring, averaging 30, Jaren Jackson Jr. is averaging 22 or more, Ty Jerome's averaging 16, just crazy video game-like numbers. It still doesn't feel like they took a step back after trading Desmond Bane. And I've talked about the trade a lot on here, and a lot of people know my opinions on the trade, but to get 4 first-round picks in return, it's crazy. You can move those for possible players at the deadline that teams aren't just happy with, that will make the Grizzlies take that extra step, because the NBA season is broke up in first half and second half, and of course broke up by the All-Star weekend, All-Star game, stuff of that nature. But if Zach Kleiman is very serious about the two-headed monster between Jaren and Ja, of course Ja's going to have to get his contract extension next season. But I feel like the Grizzlies are on the cusp of being championship material, and if one move is made possibly next season, possibly at the deadline, then I feel like we'll be seeing the Grizzlies compete for the West. Now, who's in the West? Of course, the Thunder. The Spurs are going to be tough. The Lakers are always going to be competitive as long as they have LeBron and Luka. The Clippers are going to be tough now that they have James, Kawhi, and Chris Paul. The Nuggets are always competitive with Jokic. The Timberwolves with Ant and all those players. But the one thing to me is that, it doesn't take much for the Grizzlies to be right back up there to where they were. Because remember, just 2 to 3 seasons ago, they were top 3 in the West. And, they were a team that were tough competitors. They were making the grindhouse loud. They were competing hard. They were playing hard. And we've taken steps back with losing Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, stuff like that. But as good of a player Desmond Bane was in Memphis, I feel like the writing was on the wall and it was time for him to move on. Now, of course, it sucks, but for the Grizzlies to get a B for the offseason, I feel like it could have been higher. Maybe even a B+. There's still some things that could have been addressed. Again, going back to the center issue, the power forward. Of course, Santi got the contract extension he was wanting. Cam Spencer, the same deal. But what does this mean for the season? Now, time will tell. We'll have to dive into that later on. But to me, the grade, it's acceptable. Not what the Grizzlies want to be. If I'm in the Grizzlies front office, if I'm Tayshaun Prince, Zach Kleiman, whoever, I'm looking at this and like, okay, how can we prove this guy wrong? How can we prove the mainstream media wrong? Because everybody thinks that now that Desmond Bane has gone, the Grizzlies are only going to win 20 to 40 games. Now, in some instances, 40 games is a playoff team, play-in team, but it's not where the Grizzlies need to be. The Grizzlies need to be winning 50 games, 55 games, not going 72-10 or 73-9 or 82-0 or 64 whatever. But I definitely feel like the Grizzlies are a team, given their experience, they can easily go out there and win 55 to 58 games a season. Now, 60 plus would be phenomenal, but where it is right now, I just don't see the Grizzlies doing more than what I've stated. And I want to see this grade become a better grade when they do the season break grades. I'd love to see the Grizzlies get an A-. But for the offseason, again, my grade's going to be an A- because they addressed some shooting concerns after losing Desmond Bane. But, where does that center spot fall with ED being out? Is Brandon Clark healthy enough to come back? There's so many questions that, are going to be answered between now and October that a lot of people need to be keeping their eyes on because, again, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, we've seen star players come and go from Memphis. We've seen great players come and go from Memphis. They've been drafted, they've been traded, they've been signed, so on and so forth. But what exactly does this mean for Jaren Jackson? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down to you real quick and I'll go. Jaren Jackson has undoubtedly got the chance to prove that he's the best power forward in the NBA this season. Of course, he's injured right now with the turf toe injury, but this season is a make it season for Jaren. Yes, he has been one of the most effective forwards in the league as of late, but this is his chance to prove he's the best. Now, people are going to say, well, Hardenstein's really good, Bam Adebayo's really good, Wendell Carter's good, Victor Wembanyama's good, Giannis Antetokounmpo's good. What separates Jaren from the rest of those? Well, what separates Jaren from the rest of those is the fact that he's got an effective floater. He keeps on, he keeps doing it, and he gets it down to up to 60, 70% effective rate. Then, again, that's going to open up a whole new layer of offensive rotation for the Grizzlies. Now, again, I definitely think Jaren Jackson has all the potential this season to prove why he's the best power forward in the NBA. But it's going to be all for this episode of Grizzlies Digest. I'm Tristan Harlen signing off and saying goodbye. For all my subscribers, 73.8% of you guys are not subscribed, so why aren't you clicking the subscribe button, bro? Click it. It is free 99. Now, I love doing this job here at Grizzlies Digest. 26.2% of you guys are making this very easy to do, but to my almost 74% of guys, come on now. Click that subscribe button, because the more you subscribe, the more resources we can get out there for you guys, and the more likely it is for possibly one of us to travel to the game or one of us to be at the games, talking to some of you guys in person. So just keep that in mind. Click that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Grizzlies Digest. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend if I don't talk to you before then. So see you guys.